Hi guys, I'm back with what appears to be a PvP between two Grandmasters League players. And I think Team Sgeht for throwing me these replays. They actually seem to be relatively entertaining so far. But hang on just a second and I will go ahead and introduce both sides of the map. Just let me go ahead and take a swig of what I'm drinking right now. In the upper right, spawning as our red Protoss with looks like some rather, I don't know, eyesy. They look like eyes. All these red decals on the ground. I'm just gonna call him EtherNaL. Having impressive performance so far. And in the lower left-hand corner, he also has very eyeball-y looking decals. It is WWMCZ StarNaN. Now, something I want to just point out, and that seems to be what stands, something that just kind of stands out to me right now is, I think I've seen this clan before, WWMCZ. I just can't really point it out. And StarNaN also sounds familiar as a player, but of course I'm not too familiar. Both players amazingly, just creepily even on what they're doing in terms of openers. It looks like, it's quite regular. Let me see here. Gas going down for both players again at the same time. But now we have the second gas for both players. Again, it looks like we are going in completely blind with this as well. Neither player is actually opting to scout at present. I want to say that maybe, just maybe, we're going to see, I don't know, like some kind of a Stargate play. Maybe. It's either going to be Stargate or Twilight Council, but with what I see trending in PvP, in Heart of the Swarm, I'm more leaning towards Stargate than anything else. But of course I said leaning towards, so... And of course one thing we must remember is that both of those gases went down before the Cybernetics Core even got started. So yeah. Talking about the map for just a moment, it can be a little difficult to get your ground forces from point A to point B, and I actually, because of the distance from natural A to natural B, I actually wouldn't be a little bit surprised to see either player actually crank out, a Stargate opener or something of that nature. Here we go. Cybernetics Core is finished for both players, and I'm thinking what we're going to see is both players hit full saturation, then maybe go with a Mothership Core eventually. And there it is, a Twilight Council from StarNaN. The question is, where is the card that we're going to see from EtherNaL? It's going down a little late, but, well, I mean, compared to the Twilight Council, but it is a Stargate opener. Yes. This looks like it's going to be rather interesting. What we're going to see mid-game is, okay, basically, what I can tell you guys right now is the kind of play we should be seeing from StarNaN is probably eventually Blink Stalkers. Nope, DTs. That's actually a rather huge gamble, and if it has no return for him in the mid-game, then he will suffer in the late game. I can guarantee you guys that much right now. Stargate about finished for EtherNaL. And the Void Ray is... Nope, a Phoenix is going to be the unit of choice from EtherNaL. One thing that I will state is that during the mid-game, once EtherNaL has a sufficient ground force composition, he's going to need Void Rays to really counter the bulk of every Protoss army, and that bulk would come in the form of Stalkers. If not, both sides of the map have basically caught on to what is the presently trending metagame. And here we go. The Dark Shrine is about finishing up, and we do have StarNaN sending out a probe to try and find something out, some information on the map. Or not find some information, but rather throw down a pylon. Jeez. I'm a little... Sorry, guys. Let me put my focus back into this game. Yeah, there we go. Hallucinated Phoenix out and on the way for StarNaN. Of course, there is something that's kind of trendy that I've heard of, and it's kind of silly. What you can do as a Protoss with hallucinations is send out a hallucinated Oracle to scout your opponent. It looks like we actually see just really how worried excuse me, not StarNaN, but EtherNaL is towards this hallucinated Phoenix. He's like, yeah, it's a hallucination. Just watch. Yep. Still, your units will blink on your minimap like they are actually under attack, and I'm pretty sure those Phoenixes caught on to what was in there. Yes, poor DT. So here we are, like, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button there. The Phoenixes did obviously spot the Dark Shrine going down. And now they found the forward pylon, but of course, since it seems that, you know, StarNaN, he's like, well, okay, that I tried to send those DTs in, that didn't quite work out, but I'm gonna go ahead and expo behind this anyway. It had him defensive, you know, and it's a brave move. I respect him for that. And we actually have a forge at, I think this is a relatively early stage in the game compared to what I am accustomed to seeing in PvP, higher level PvP. Upgrades do make a huge difference in mirror matchups. Never underestimate them. Of course, you know, whether it be the +1 Carapace, which keeps you from losing all your lings to a single Baneling. It now takes 2 Banelings to kill a bunch of lings with +1 Carapace. And let me think. Of course, there's also the roaches. Roach versus roach battles. You know, it just makes such a huge difference after a while. And it seems like the only real compensation for this is, or the only real problem with this is, you have so few units to deal with that. And it looks like the Phoenixes are coming back in here to kind of do some harass. It looks like they're getting away with a couple of probes. You know, and I mean, even though it's only a couple of probes, it actually makes a huge difference towards the late game. As you can see now, there's actually an Oracle coming in here, and it's willing to die to kill as many probes as it can, and that is the most cost-effective. This is the best PvP Skytoss harass I have seen since I started casting PvP in Heart of the Swarm. Really, I can't say that enough, guys. Checking the worker count right now, it's actually, you know, EtherNaL is so far ahead. He's 1/3 ahead of his opponent, and it looks like StarNaN is actually pushing back with the intention to do some damage, possibly kill his opponent, and this is where I think, yes, I called it, we should see Void Rays. Void Rays not good against Archons, but versus Stalkers they can perform relatively well, and against a Mothership Core they also get a buff because it appears that Mothership Cores are also armored units. An Immortal coming out here. It's basically going to act as a tank for all those units over there. And now we got Photon Overcharge going down on the natural. We just have StarNaN basically eating more and more losses. You know, just taking more and more as it comes. And he's got not such a healthy unit composition versus what we see from EtherNaL. I want to say that Stalkers, Blink Stalker, a Twilight Council opener is dangerous for 2 reasons. It forces you to use Stalkers on 2 base, and Stalkers are basically hard countered by both Immortals and Void Rays now. And see, what's bad is we have 1 of each and a 3rd on the way. And by 3rd, I actually mean a 2nd Immortal, and it looks like a couple of Stalkers kind of warp into the main, not warp, but blink, and their goal is just to kill some probes and get out. And now we just basically see, you know, even though we see EtherNaL basically being defensive, I think his probe count is still relatively high, especially given the fact that we have these Phoenixes over here harassing the hell out of the mineral line. Just look at that right now. I mean, you know, EtherNaL has managed to stay ahead. And here we go. Both main forces are engaging. Force field's going down on the Archon, not the best unit to target with those. And the Void Rays targeting down the Archon, not quite the best matchup. Stalkers get the last shots out on it. And now we have EtherNaL, the victim, pushing back. Very good move so far. Okay. And EtherNaL, you know, he's just got such a large army supply, he's just able to push this back without being afraid. He's actually willing to throw away some Phoenixes just to make this game end a little bit sooner. And, you know, I think when we see that StarNaN is stuck over here, he's not going to be able to hold. You guys can see he's doing nothing but cranking out Stalkers, and Stalkers are worthless against, you know, Immortals and Void Rays, especially when you've got 3 of them. You know, I mean, all 3 of these units in the composition right here get buffs versus armored. 4 if you include the, excuse me, when I say 3 I mean the 2 Immortals and the Void Ray. But of course, The Stalkers themselves also get a buff versus armored. They do 14 damage versus armored units by default. And that's actually going to make their day a little bit easier on killing these rocks, making sure they get a better concave and so on and so forth. I think we could see EtherNaL push in here as an all-in and basically win the game, but, you know, I kind of wish just we would see some kind of unit diversity coming from StarNaN. It's too late for him. You know, he can't really win with the composition that he's got now. It's just pure Blink Stalker. This isn't Wings of Liberty anymore, guys. You have to realize what gets a buff against what. And now we have 3 Immortals in the mix along with a single Void Ray. And the Void Ray is not quite being targeted down, but of course it is being shot. And the Stalkers are blinking back one at a time. But of course, after they use up all their blinks, it's just going to, you know, this game is just going to collapse into the favor of EtherNaL. But of course, we do have a DT kind of chasing down these guys. But alas, this is actually kind of working out just a little bit in favor of StarNaN. He actually has 2 DTs in the mix. The big thing is he just doesn't want to use them to... He just doesn't want to directly engage with the Stalkers, and the problem is that once this Observer arrives, you know, those DTs are going to be dealt with quite easily. So now we have both players, I wouldn't say even army supply, but I would definitely say that, ooh, this is an engagement that we can't really see. You know, we just can't see StarNaN continue to engage like this. You know, you can't engage directly using Stalkers versus what's the word I'm looking for? Stalkers versus Immortals. Blink Stalkers, of course, that comes down to micro as well as Stalker count, but you know, it's just, do these guys even have blink? They don't. They don't need it to win. We have 2 Archons now here. But of course, I think, you know, I think even if he threw in some Templar, it would actually help him out a lot. And by Templar, I mean High Templar, not Dark Templar. Sorry, guys. Sorry for the confusion. And now we have EtherNaL basically going back home, trying to pull himself together. He's not particularly scared, but, you know, I mean, with 3 Immortals, excuse me, 3 Archons, 2 Archons in the mix, 3 Archons, yes, 3 Archons in the mix, we actually see that he's actually going to have a, I don't know how to say this. He's going to have a harder time than he was before against holding this. I do apologize, my phone is ringing right now. Behind this, we see that he teched up to Robotics Bay, and he's actually researching Extended Thermal Lance presently. Protoss Ground Armor level 1. I believe he had ground weapons level 1 a long time ago. And Zealot's going to town on this 3rd pylon. Alright, so here we go, guys. Nexus number 3 on the way for, it looks like, both sides of the map, and they are relatively even. So I'm a little curious as how and when this game is going to end. Of course, Templar Archives now going down for EtherNaL. And Twilight Council now going down for StarNaN. He's got a, you know, what his opponent has, he has to take for himself. And one thing that you have to remember is that every time you do not, oh my god, how did I do that? Zealot Charge was researched, of course, back home. And this is one thing that the Zealots of StarNaN have that EtherNals do not. This kind of brings the worker count, ooh, much, much more in favor of StarNaN. So, right now what we have to see is, I don't know how else to say it, just absolute control of the units that both players have to really see any, what's the word I'm looking for? This is basically going to come down to unit control. If you check the army supplies, it's 85 to 64. EtherNal's still favored, but of course his opponent is getting more and more Archons, and it looks like we're going with, I want to say a semi-classical Wings of Liberty composition. Gateways getting more and more tacked on. And I think we're going to see StarNaN start to warp in more and more DTs soon as the Psionic Storm finishes up. He does have 4 already, and now they just barely have enough energy to throw down some storms. This one, of course, does not, but at feedback, I don't know about that. Anywho, Hallucinated Phoenix coming in here to get a read on just what EtherNaL is up to. This is from StarNaN, of course, and that's the scouting information that he's got. He knows that the Twilight Council's there. He's like, okay, well, we're now 3 base versus 3 base, and this is usually where we get every tech in the game. Oh, and it looks like, what was that? It looks like that poor probe was trapped. Now he has a way to get out. Okay. Both players, in terms of income, astoundingly even. Army supply is starting to spiral out of control now for EtherNaL, of course. Irony of that was he was actually further behind in econ. At the, oh no, he was further ahead in the early game. That's usually, if there's any mistakes in the early game, or if one player gets an early lead in the early game, then, you know, it all boils down to how well that lead is used, and basically this is it. StarNaN, of course, throwing down a Stargate behind this. I'm wondering if he's going to follow this up with a fleet beacon, maybe get a real mothership in it. I will say that I have seen a 44-minute long game on this map between 2 Protosses, and one of them was I am seed and the other one was I am first, and this was actually me having an ops position in a custom game for the MSI Pro World Cup. And it was not pretty. We were just looking, you know, for like 10 minutes in this entire PvP, we were looking for both players to find an engagement point, and it looks like StarNaN is now alerted to the position of his opponent's main army. But I want to say with the Colossus count that we see now from EtherNaL, the army of StarNaN is just going to melt. Now there are a lot of tanks, there are a lot of charge lots. Yes, this is no doubt, but let's just see how this engagement goes. It's not going to be pretty, guys. Storm's going down everywhere on the main army of EtherNaL. It looks like, you know, a good deal of the gateway units are melting, and the Archon dealing with the Void Rays quite adequately. But of course, there's just too many Colossi here left over. We had him throw down a Time Warp. It's kind of working against himself here in this engagement point. And he loses his 3rd as well as his 4th behind this. StarNaN trying to make a full sandwich with all these, excuse me, not Archons, but Zealots. And now the Archons are catching up to the mix. And Time Warp kind of working in favor of StarNaN just a little bit, but everything is just falling to pieces. And there it is, GG from StarNaN. Alright guys, so if you liked what you saw, go ahead and click on the follow button. This is Breaker. I want to thank you guys for letting me cast it. This has been a little bit of a mild co-op with Team sgeht. So I'll see you guys later.